This video covers nutrient recommendations and visual activity. The macronutrients that are recommended for anyone who's engaging in physical activity are the same as for other individuals. So carbohydrates between 45 and 65% of total calories should be coming from that. Protein 10 to 35%, fat 20 to 35%. When we think about certain situations, there may be some variations here of how we enact this. So for someone who's engaging in endurance events, whether that's training for an event or just engaging in physical activity that has a longer duration, then we want to think about what they're consuming on a daily diet, and then thinking about if they are going to do an event or even engage in some endurance training for exercise, what can they do to maintain good health in their cells. So overall, the daily diet really should be high in carbohydrates. Again, thinking about the need to replenish glycogen stores and also to maximize storage. And then also thinking about before an event, we also want to do things that are easily digestible and high carbohydrate. So for example, you could have pasta with marinara sauce, maybe you could have fruit juice, something that is going to be easy to digest and high carbohydrate. During the event, we want to maintain blood glucose levels, so we're going to encourage individuals in doing endurance events to consume something like a sports drink. Now, not only does a sports drink provide carbohydrates, so glucose to maintain blood glucose levels, but it also contains electrolytes. Now, why electrolytes are so important is not just because you're losing some electrolytes, but really the main reason for having that in there, especially sodium, is of course you're going to get the electrolytes, but it's going to encourage you to drink more. So having sodium in there will actually help the person to increase fluid intake, which is really important because we want to make sure the person's not getting dehydrated. So during the event, to replenish carbohydrates and fluids and some electrolytes, we're going to encourage a sports drink. So, and I should say too, that sports drink, we want that to be between 6 to 8% of carbohydrates per serving to be able to minimize any kind of GI distress, but give enough carbohydrates to maintain blood glucose. And what about after the event? Well, chocolate milk really has been shown in research to be a great recovery drink because not only does it have carbohydrates, but it also has a good protein source. So both after an event, we want to think about protein, good amounts of protein, and also carbohydrates. But honestly, you can just get it from food. You don't need to do anything special. There's specialized drinks out there, but you don't need to do that. You really can just eat a normal diet and it has some protein in it and some carbohydrates, and that's going to help replenish what you need to after an endurance event. What about resistance training? We do know that through research, we know that with resistance training, there is some value in thinking about the timing and the amount of protein you have throughout a day to be able to maximize muscle protein synthesis. So what does that look like? Well, we know from research that for resistance training, about 20 to 25 grams of protein 3 times a day is going to help you maximize synthesis of muscle tissue, so muscle protein synthesis. What does that really look like, 20 to 25 grams of protein? Might surprise you to know it's probably not as much food as you think. So for instance, 2 cups of yogurt, 2.5 cups of milk, 2.5 to 3 ounces of meat, and 1.25 cups of edamame or soybeans will give you that range of 20 to 25 grams of protein. And the other thing I would say here is that knowing that an individual who is engaging in sports may need to get towards the higher end of the protein macronutrient distribution, acceptable macronutrient distribution range. However, if they're following MyPlate, they're going to well meet those needs. So really, we can just encourage athletes and anyone who really exercises regularly to follow MyPlate based on their specific height and weight, activity level, and gender in order to meet all of their macronutrient and micronutrient needs. So again, someone who can, even though we recommend this amount of protein throughout the day, they really can meet that protein by meeting MyPlate. Another concept to think about is whether or not vitamin and mineral supplements are necessary. Hopefully you think the answer would be, well, it depends. If someone is well nourished, if they're following MyPlate recommendations, they probably really do not need a vitamin mineral supplement because we know that if you meet my plate, you're meeting your micronutrient and macronutrient needs. However, if someone does have a specific deficiency, for instance, if someone has iron deficiency, then yes, we're going to recommend a supplement because in that case, we want to try to replenish what they are not having in their body. So this question here, which athlete is at highest risk for iron deficiency? So we see A is a female hurdler or sprinter, B, a female swimmer, C, a male bicyclist, or D, male baseball player. Hopefully right off the bat you think, okay, well, I know that females are at higher risk for iron deficiency because of menstruation, so that really rules out C and D, the males. Now we're down to two, the female hurdler sprinter and the female swimmer. So which one of these females is at a little bit higher risk than the other for iron deficiency? And the answer is the female hurdler sprinter. Now, part of this has to do with a concept we call foot strike, which essentially is the pounding of a foot on the pavement is potentially that can lead to damage to red blood cells and capillaries, and that damage can then affect iron status. That's one of the thoughts behind the idea of those who are doing those pounding, like running or sprinting or things like that, where they're pounding the pavement, that they are going to be at higher risk for iron deficiency. So in this case, the right answer would be A, female hurdler sprinter. So if you have any further questions about this concept, definitely let me or the TAs know.